Hi, and welcome to another English language class. My name is Happiness Demo, and today we'll be studying question tags in the theme listening and speaking. But before we learn, let's look at the objectives for this lesson. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to state the difference between statements and questions, define question tags, state the functions of question tags, ask questions using positive and negative question tags, and identify question tags in sentences. Now let's go into our lesson. Now, when we communicate with one another or when we speak and write, we make use of statements and questions. When we pass information, we are simply telling somebody something, and we use statements to pass information. And then when we want to find out something from someone, we ask questions. So we have these two basic types of sentences, statements and questions. There are other types, but these two are key. And so we said we make statements to pass information to people while we ask questions in order to get information from others. Some examples of statements and questions are: it is healthy to brush your teeth 2 times daily. This is a statement. Is it healthy to brush your teeth 2 times daily? This is a question. I wake up early every day. This is a statement. Do you wake up early every day? This is a question. So we use questions and statements more often when we communicate with one another. And note that for questions, we end them with question marks, while statements end with full stops. Now, having talked about questions and statements, what are question tags? Question tags are simply short questions which we place at the end of statements. They are used to turn a statement into a question. And of course, we use question tags often, especially when we speak. Question tags are simply short questions we attach to the end of statements when we speak, when you want to find out something from your listener. Some examples of question tags are: you went to school yesterday. Didn't you? This is the question tag. Olabode taught Chima how to solve the mathematics question. Didn't he? Amara didn't fail her test. Did she? Shegun goes to the library often. Doesn't he? Mrs. Kemi is a Yoruba lady. Isn't she? Efe can represent his team for the long jump competition. Can't he? So these are all question tags. We find here that we attach the questions, these short questions, to the end of statements. We have them at the end of these statements. So this is what question tags are about. Now let's take a look at some functions of question tags. What do they do in sentences? What roles do they play in sentences? The first function is that we use question tags when we want a reply from the person or persons we are speaking to. Now, this is done in order to keep a conversation going. When you're speaking to someone and you want a reply, you're telling the person something, at the same time you want the person's response. You do not just want to pass an information, you want a response from your listener. You use question tags, and this helps to make your conversation lively. It keeps the conversation going. For example, you should finish your chores at 12 noon. Shouldn't you? The response here is, yes, I should. The exam date has been fixed, hasn't it? Yes, it has. It is important to exercise regularly. Isn't it? Yes, it is. Kemi will visit her grandparents this weekend. Won't she? Yes, she will. All your clothes are washed, aren't they? Yes, they are. So these are the responses for the question tags. When you want a reply from your listener, you're passing an information, but at the same time you want a reply, you use question tags to get his or her response. The second function of question tags is that we use them to find out if something is true or not. When you want to find out whether an information is true or not true, you use question tags. For example, the English textbook on the desk belongs to Nkem, doesn't it? Here, you want to know whether the English textbook, belongs to Nkem or not. Bereni is the class prefect of JSS 2B, isn't he? Mr. Kelechi gave us 2 holiday assignments, didn't he? Akpan draws very well, doesn't he? Tari can cook very well, can't she? Your cousin would spend the holidays at your house, won't he? So these statements here, or these examples here, prove to us that we use question tags when we want to find out if an information is true or false. So that's another function of question tags. Now let's look at the structure of question tags. What and what make up question tags? We form question tags using the auxiliary verb or modal verb in the statement and the pronoun form of the subject. So here we can see that we form question tags with 2 or 3 important things. First, we use the auxiliary verb, which is 1. We can also decide to use the modal verb depending on the verb in the statement. So we can have the auxiliary verb or the modal verb, and then the pronoun form of the subject. The pronoun form of the subject in the statement. Remember that when we have question tags, they always come after statements. So when you look at that statement, the subject of the statement, the pronoun form of that subject, together with an auxiliary verb or modal verb, forms a question tag. For example, Sotoye doesn't go to school. Does he? In the statement, we find the auxiliary verb doesn't, and we find the subject, Sotoye. We said earlier that the question tag is formed with the auxiliary verb and the pronoun form of the subject. So here we have the auxiliary verb does, and the pronoun form of the subject, which is Sotoye, is he. So this is the question tag. Does he? Barine is not a disrespectful student. Is she? In the statement, we have the auxiliary verb is, so we also have is here. And then we have the subject, Barine. Barine is a girl. The pronoun form of the subject is she. The drawing book is not yours. Is it? We lift the is from here to form our question tag, auxiliary verb is. And then the drawing book, which is the subject of this statement, is an object, so we use the pronoun it. Belema won't take what belongs to someone else. Would she? Here, the modal verb is won't. And so, in our question tag, we have it as would, and then the subject is Belema. The pronoun form of Belema is the pronoun she. So would she forms our question tag. So that's simply what we mean by the structure of question tags. They are formed using auxiliary or modal verbs and the pronoun form of the subject. Now note that auxiliary verbs are helping verbs. They help main verbs complete their meaning. They are not action words as we can see on the board. They are just helping verbs that help other verbs to make their complete meaning. Now, note also that question tags in the sentence above are in the positive. We also have negative question tags. If you look at these examples, you'll find that all the question tags are positive. When we say question tags are positive, it means we do not have the short form or the contracted form of the negative word not attached to it. Not is a negative word, so when you have not together with the modal verb or the auxiliary verb in a question tag, it makes that question tag negative. We will see that later on. But these ones here are positive. We didn't say doesn't he, we said does he. We didn't say isn't she, we said is she. Here we didn't say isn't it, we said is it. We didn't also say wouldn't she here, we said would she. So they are in the positive. Later on we'll look at negative question tags. Now, still talking about the structure of question tags, negative question tags are also formed using the auxiliary or modal verbs in the statement and the pronoun form of the subject. But the only thing different here is that the contracted or short form of the word not, that is N''T, is attached to the auxiliary or modal verb used. For example, Segun is Yoruba, isn't he? Now this is a negative question tag because we find that the contracted form of not is attached to the auxiliary verb is. The English test was quite easy, wasn't it? We also find the contracted form of not here attached to the auxiliary verb was before the pronoun form of the subject, the English test. I do my assignments daily, don't I? The same thing applies here. The contracted form of the word not together with the auxiliary verb do before the pronoun form of the subject, I. Now note that we do not have the short form of the word not with positive question tags. Earlier on, we had looked at positive question tags and we said they do not come with N''T. That is the short form of the word not because they are positive. Not is a negative word, so we only have that in negative question tags. Now let's look at this table on the board showing positive and negative question tags. Here we'll be able to differentiate how to write positive question tags from how to write negative question tags. Here we have the statement, and on this column we have the positive tag. We also have the same statement here, and on this column we have the negative tag. Toye did not come to school. The positive tag for that is did she? Toye came to school. The negative tag would be didn't she. Now remember that for negative tags, we find the short form of the word not as N''T attached with the modal verb or the auxiliary verb. That's just how to identify negative tags. For positive question tags, we don't find that at all. We just have the modal verb and the pronoun form of the subject. The next sentence says, the bus didn't leave in time. Positive tag, did it? The bus left in time. Negative tag, didn't it? The maths test won't start at 9 a.m. Positive tag, will it? The maths test will start at 9 a.m. Negative tag, won't it? Ejiro is not back from work. Positive tag, is she? Ejiro is back from work. Negative tag, isn't she? You are not a citizen of Nigeria. Positive tag, are you? You are a citizen of Nigeria. Negative tag, aren't you? We do not have much time left. Positive tag, do we? We have so much time left. And the negative tag for that is don't we? So these are positive and negative tags. This is the end of our lesson today on the first part of question tags. Before we go into our test section, let's look at the summary of this lesson. Today we learned that statements are used to pass information from one person to another, while questions are used to get information from others. We also learned today that question tags are short questions placed at the end of statements. We also learned that question tags are used to find out if something is true or not, and that they are also used to get a reply from our listeners. We saw also today that question tags are made with auxiliary or modal verbs and the pronoun form of the subjects. And lastly, we looked at negative question tags and we said they come with the contracted form of the word not, while positive question tags do not. Now let's answer our questions for today. Question 1 says, pick the most appropriate question tag for the statement below. You didn't go to work yesterday. A, did you? B, didn't you? Or C, don't you? The correct answer is A, did you? You didn't go to work yesterday. Did you? That's the correct answer. So if you picked A, you are correct. Our second question says, pick the most appropriate question tag for the statement below. Tunji knows how to draw very well. What's the appropriate question tag for this statement? Is it A, does he? B, knowsn't he? Or C, doesn't he? The correct answer is C, doesn't he? Tunji knows how to draw very well. Doesn't he? So if you picked C, you are correct. This is the end of our lesson today on question tags. Thank you for listening and see you next time.